What's up, everybody? So I have a new, mini series. So what I'm going to be doing is breaking down my top 50 favorite black metal albums of the 2020s so far. So obviously this list could be like 3 times as big, but 50 seemed like a good number. Mostly is going to be from 2020 to 2024. I'm only going to be mentioning 4 albums that I picked last year, but cause they're still too new for me to seem right to include them on the pantheon of these great albums. But yeah, so, and this is going to be a 3-part series, I guess, because if I did it in one episode, it would be like 2 hours long, and that might be overkill. So yep. And this video is just going to be the albums from 2020 that I chose, because this year was I bought the most black metal albums from this year, which makes sense because it was locked down. We couldn't really do anything, so there's nothing better to do than play music and buy music, I guess. So that's probably why 2020 I have the most stuff from. But yep, we're listening to, first of all, Panopticon, Roads to the North. Alright, let's do the tapes first because I have the least amount of those to show. So this band is from Finland. This is To Conceal. Let me pull this out so you can see it better. This is To Conceal the Horns with their album Purist. Nobody ever mentioned this band. I'm not sure why. Not a very good album title or band name, but I like the logo though. So they definitely sound super Finnish, you can tell, but to me it's like the first couple of Dimmu Borgir albums mixed with Cosmic Church, so like a more, there goes the tape show. It's like a more atmospheric Dimmu, I guess. And honestly, there's some influence from that record too, but more specifically early Dimmu than early Old Man's Child. But yep, awesome. I forget who put this out. Let me see. Worship Tapes. Yes, this was limited to 295. This is number 199. So yep, again, if you like a more atmospheric version of early Dimmu, check it out. To Conceal the Horns, Purist. Alright, so this is definitely going to be a more well-known one. If this was ranked, this would be like in the top 2 or 3, but of course I didn't mention these guys. So have a Krunu with Ayunis Sonimansata. I'm sure I butchered that, but as great as Tavis Land was, this is still my favorite Havukunu record, for sure. This is definitely, I would say, a lot more black metal than the recent one. The one from last year, they definitely explored some like traditional heavy metal influences, which this one, there was a little bit of that, but it's more just a straightforward, aggressive pagan black metal record. So definitely, if you want to get into Havukunu, this is the one I would suggest to start with, but all of them have been awesome. So I would say give that a listen, but I'm sure you all know Havukunu at this point. But if you haven't, check it out. Havukunu with an album in Finnish that I'm sure I did not pronounce correctly. Let's do CDs next. Abagor with Todish Linger. So this is I don't want to say return to form, it's like a return to style-wise. To me, this sounds like this could have come out in the early 2000s. Like, they got more avant-garde and like kind of out there after like Satanized, but this sounds like it could have been like after channeling the quintessence of Satan, that kind of era. So like late 90s, early 2000s era of Abagor, opposed to the more crazy out there era that was before this. Is this their best record? Obviously not. The first 5 are better, but if you want their return to being less weird, this is definitely an awesome record. So there's Abagor with Todislinger. I'm sure you saw this one coming. Definitely one of the more hyped ones, I guess. So this is Achilles with Melanos. So The Dreaming Eye, I still think is this band's magnum opus, but this was definitely a awesome record that came out in 2020. So I'm sure you all are familiar with Achilles at this point. They're definitely one of the more like well-known bands in the American black metal scene. This came out in Debromoti. This is their 3rd album, I believe, yeah, because The Dreaming Eye was actually their 2nd, but their first album was like a pure dark ambient album, so that's not really, like, I would say The Dreaming Eye is where they started being the true Achilles. But yep, the super nightmarish crazy black metal from the States, so, but I'm sure you all know this anyway, so if you're not familiar with it and you want some awesome nightmarish, evil, scary black metal, check it out. Achilles, Melanos. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is put out through Deborah Morty, and the Abogor was put out through World Terror Committee, so I'll try to remember the labels too, so yep. Achilles, Melanos. Alright, this band is from Finland, and they've done 3 albums since their return to form. Yeah, I think 3. 3 or 4. So this is And Oceans with Cosmic Void Mother. And I forgot to mention, during this series, I am not going to be repeating bands at all. So it's going to be 50 different bands. So if I show the record by this band, you can assume it's going to be my favorite album by them during this time period. So I'm only mentioning that once. If you say, why didn't you pull this one too? Because the one I mentioned I just happen to enjoy more. So I had to get that out of the way. But yeah. Back to And Oceans, Cosmic Void Mother. This came out through Seasons of Mist, so And Oceans are one of my favorite Finnish black metal bands, but they have kind of a weird history. Like their first 2 albums, I would say, like kind of slightly avant-garde symphonic black metal. The third one, which I liked, they became more industrial. The 4th album, they like ditched the black metal altogether, became kind of not good. And then the 3 after that comeback record have been awesome, so, yep. And I believe they broke up for a while and changed their name and became more of a death metal band. But yeah, so. I mean, it's definitely, I would say, this is probably the closest to the early material of their 3 albums since they've come back. Because the difference is they became, like, a lot more aggressive than the early sound, so, like, not like super like Marduk or anything, but they definitely have more blast in this material than that were on the earlier ones. Yep. And Oceans, Cosmic Void Mother. Next up is a band I don't see anybody mention that often, mainly because they're broken up, so that probably doesn't help. But it was a recent breakup, and honestly, these guys are one of my favorite bands from Poland. So this is Blaze of Perdition with The Harrowing of Hearts. So my favorite album by them is still their debut, Through the Blaze of Perdition. I think that's what that one's called. Yeah, it's from 2010. So I would say their last few records, they became more like epic and grandiose sounding, which the first couple records, they still had moments, but they definitely got more expansive and like more experimental, I guess, with the songwriting. They definitely were trying new things. Kind of like how later Der Weg and the Freiheit got more experimental, but they don't sound like them at all. But just a good comparison. If you know Der Weg, you know the change after the first 3 albums. But yep, Blaze of Perdition, the earlier ones, kind of like Magua, I guess, but I still think they have their own sound, and honestly, I think these guys are better, but that's just me. Yep, check it out. Blaze of Perdition, The Harrowing of Hearts, and it came out through Metal Blade, oddly. Not a label I associate with much black metal, but oh well, I guess they did have some good bands that played that style. Alright, this band I mentioned in my metal tag video as the band I don't see people mention. This is Gravintier with Death Wings Widespread. Probably my favorite album by them, though it's tough. They have a great discography so far, and they're I think newer band. Their debut was like mid-2010s, I believe. So these guys are from Sweden, but the second you hear that, you pretty much know already. Like, they definitely, especially nowadays, well, back then they did too, but I would say Sweden is one of the bands where, like, one of the countries where the second you hear a band from that country, you instantly know they're from that. So I would say melodic black metal, but they don't have any of the like melodic death metal influences that bands playing this style in the 90s have. They were definitely more modern sounding, and I think they're raw too, which I definitely like the raw production for this style, which like some albums they wouldn't work, but like this style would be like a little bit nastier sounding. I actually think adds to it. So anyway, check it out. This band needs more love, man. I'm not sure why they don't get it, but I get it with the amount of releases that come out every year. You can't hate everything, but if there's one thing I need you guys to check out, your homework for this video, it's going to be this, so check it out. Gravintier, Death Wings Widespread, and it's put out through Cardinal Records too, so there you go. So here's one I'm sure you all familiar with. Let me pull out the J code. So this is Mellow Carpetan with Kruspinski Oni. Probably my favorite record by them. I know folks tended to say the new record was the best. Honestly, I loved it, but I think the new record is my least favorite of the four so far, which is definitely not going to be a popular thing to say, but I think the first three albums, they were definitely a lot more black metal sounding in this material. I mean, there's still the heavy metal sound that made them stand out from the pack, but I would say it's less prominent on this material because the newest one, there was tons of like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest riffs all over the place. I listened to it yesterday and I forgot how much that sounded like an Iron Maiden record kind of, but yep. Mellow Carpetan, definitely one of the best modern black metal bands going, but I'm sure you all know that, so compare them to another band like Root or Master's Hammer, the early material, because both bands are definitely like the progenitors of black and heavy metal, I guess, but anyway, check them out. Mellow Carpetan with Kruspinski Oni. Alrighty, let's go to Canada. This is Summit with Chant au Flame de la Libre. So this is a member of For the Rest. It's either the drummer or the guitarist. I forget who, but I know it's one of those guys. So this is their only material to date so far. So I don't know what's going on, but I know For the Rest is doing new material finally. So I'm assuming he's probably busy with that, and hopefully we get a new album from For the Rest finally. But so the differences between this and For the Rest, I would say For the Rest is more atmospheric, well, this is, I would say, a little bit more aggressive, which by the album cover you would think it's like more atmospheric kind of, but no. It is definitely, I would say, the more aggressive moments of For the Rest, so like themes for the Rebellion era, but definitely brought up a level as far as the intensity goes. Yep, Summit, Chant au Flame de la Libre. Great album if you're a For the Rest fan already. This band is from the US. This is Canis Dearest with Independence to the Beast. So honestly, I still haven't heard the record from 2024. I need to get on that. I'm sure that one's awesome, but these guys are like atmospheric black metal band from the US. I don't remember which state specifically, but these guys, I would say, well, their first couple albums, they were definitely more like Boson-y sounding, but this record, I think they changed style, got more aggressive, but also they had some cool like acoustic folk elements too. So I would say, I don't know if this is right on the money, but to me, this sounds a lot like a American Cascadian take on Drook, which, if you know the Cascadian black metal sound, you know what I'm talking about, but I don't even know if they're part of that scene, so anyway, but, and when it gets more aggressive, there's a little bit of like hatefulness too in the like riffing, not vocally, but just in like a faster, more aggressive part. It gets faster than Drook ever does, but anyway. This put out through Bindery, like I said, so anyway, let me show you this. I believe I mentioned this in my 2020 best of video, but I don't think I've shown it since, so I'll maybe show you what everything comes with. There's the vinyl. I don't know what this was limited to, if it was, but here's the insert. The first three albums, I believe, were Drum Machine, which you can't tell on this one. I know the 2024 one, they have an actual drummer now, but anyway, Canis Dearest, Independence to the Beast. What I've heard from this band is definitely my favorite record, but like I said, I still haven't heard the one from 2024, but I'll check that out soon. But anyway, like I said, if you want a Cascadian style black metal take on Drook, this is an awesome record, so check it out. Alright, you're going to France for this one, so we're all over the place as far as countries go. This is Cenotaph with Montevera. So I like this a lot more than the record from last year. The record from last year was awesome, but it didn't hold a candle to this, because honestly, the one from last year didn't even make my top 35 albums of the year, and this was like my number 3 or 4 from 2020, so quite the fall off, I guess, but or maybe I was just doing a better job paying attention to black metal last year, but oh well. So these guys definitely one of the best bands from the modern French scene, and also one of the most well known for good reason because they are fantastic. Very unique style, which I can't even compare them to anything, but I think it's the drummer. He's in a bunch of awesome projects too, and so is the vocalist, which honestly, the vocals are one of my favorite parts of this record. Like these like distant, like screamy wolf howls, which is awesome. I wish more bands would use that vocal style, but anyway. There's the front. I love that painting. Then the back, put out through NWN, who did their album from last year too. Or the sheet. I know for some reason they didn't do many CD pressings. I have a few friends that don't collect vinyl and they wanted a CD, but it was super expensive, and they had to buy them on Discogs for like quadruple the normal price when they first went up for whatever reason. I'm not sure what that was about, but hopefully NWN learned their mistake and pressed a bunch of CD copies for the most recent one, but oh well. So there you go, Cenotaph. If you want one of the best French black metal bands going with one of the best black metal vocalists right now, this is an awesome record from an awesome band. Check it out, Cenotaph Monte Vera. Alrighty, next up, this is the only like legacy band, but if you knew me, of course I had to include them because why wouldn't I? Enslave Utgard. So I prefer this to their 2020 album, and I prefer this to Retier from 2012. I don't know if I like it as much as In Times. This is probably my favorite album that they've done from 2010 onwards, but this is close to that. So if you only like their early stuff like Viking Ligaveldi, Frost, Eld, don't bother with this. But if you're like me and you enjoy their entire discography, this is definitely one of their best albums that they've done in modern years, which, yep. So it's Enslaved. I don't need to tell you what this sounds like. You either in for this era or you're not. It's simple as that. Anyway, there's the front. I love that picture. It's awesome. Then the back, put out through Nuclear Blast. Gatefold. Nope, just black wax. Doesn't come with anything else. Sure, man. You all know Enslaved are one of my favorite bands of all time, so there was no way I was not going to be including them on this list. I mean, come on. There you go, Enslaved. So there's the only super obvious band. Alrighty, next up we are going to Germany, so we all over the place, countries-wise, which is awesome. This is Horn with Gagnag. I'm sure I butchered that. I don't speak German. These guys are a pagan black metal band. Definitely, honestly, when I first heard them, they took me a few listens to click with me. It wasn't until pretty recently they finally clicked and I realized, oh, you're an idiot. These guys are awesome. But yep, my entry point was the 2017 album Tome on Hang, I think is what that one's called, but I didn't buy that until later, but yeah. So like I said, pagan black metal from Germany, which they definitely have some like triumphant, almost like, I don't want to say running wild, it's kind of a weird comparison, but this is definitely more like triumphant, beard chugging heavy metal parts, which you would think would be cheesy, but the way they do it's definitely not. It's awesome. So I don't know which album is my favorite. That's definitely hard because all of their albums are stellar, but this is definitely one of the best. So anyway, this came out in Iron Bonehead if I did not mention that yet, but anyway, there was the front. Love that painting, that is awesome. Cool logo too. Then the back, again, Iron Bonehead. I got this through NWN, I think. And then there's the main guy. A lot of black metal bands that are one-man project, they sound like they're just one guy, but this is definitely one of the few projects where it actually sounds like a full band, so I'm not sure how he pulls that off. Maybe he has like guest and session musicians working with them, but Oh well, let me see. No, it says songwriting, guitarist, bass, vocal, and dulcimer. So doesn't say who does the drums, so I'm assuming he had session work done for the drums, but oh well. Great, definitely one of the best pagan black metal bands of recent times, but I'm sure you all know that if you were into this sound for black metal. So there you go. Horn with Mohagnag. So these guys are from the US, I believe. This is Inexorium with Moonlight Navigation. So, kind of like, I would say this definitely sounds American, but it's almost like a American take on kind of melodic Swedish stuff with some heavy metal influences too. It's like a more traditional metal sounding dissection, kind of, I guess what this reminds me of, but yep. So this is their, I think, second or third album. Of the ones I'm familiar with, is definitely my favorite by them, but yep. Awesome band. I think one of the guys is the half of what's that melodic death metal band that Tanner from Psychiatrize in Majesties? Yeah, the other guy in this is half of Majesties, which is awesome, so yep. Anyway, there's the front. Then the back. What's that say? I don't even know what label put this out, but oh well. Here is the vinyl. Come with anything else? Yeah, it comes with the lyric sheet, which I'll show you that. Yes, the guy Carl's the one that's in Majesties with Tanner. It was put out through LFM. I'm not sure what that stands for, but oh well. Sure, man, if you want a kind of US take on like melodic Swedish black metal, this is a awesome record. Inexorium with Moonlight Navigation, so definitely check it out. So this is another band from the US. Inferior Brewer with Rights of the Nameless. So these guys are a, I guess you could say, progressive black metal band. Kind of like, their like album prior to this was almost like a proggy version of like mid-90s melodic, which is, there's still some of that on here, but I would say they went even more progressive and less fast, and there's some almost like a little bit of progressive death metal on here too. Maybe because they're on Prosthetic Records now instead of Binding, and Prosthetic is more of a death metal label, so that's maybe where the influence is coming from. But anyway, I believe they're no longer together, which is unfortunate. I'm not sure why, but oh well, hopefully they get back together and do another album, because the two I have by them were fantastic. I probably prefer the album before this, the one that was on Binding, but anyway, both are awesome, so anyway. There's the front. Then the back. Put out through Prosthetic, like I said. Here's the insert. And then just black vinyl. Yep, black, so that's it. So man, if you want a progressive kind of death metal sounding album, this is a very unique record to check out, so give it a whirl. But I still suggest the album before this one, but both of those are very awesome, so check it out. Inferior Brewer, Rights to the Nameless. Another band I've never seen anybody on here mention. This is Regarde des Hommes Tombeurs with, oh god, Ascension. So Metal Archives, I think, is completely wrong on this one. They're labeled as post-black metal and sludge. I have no idea where they got sludge from. post-black metal, maybe a little bit, but sludge, I don't know where the hell that came from. That's definitely a swing and a miss, but... I mean, there's some slower moments, but saying sludge is just weird, so... I would say if you like the other... I think they're on Season of Mist, the post-black metal band, The Great Old Ones. Kind of in that vein, but I would say they're more atmospheric sounding. These guys are definitely, I would say, a little bit heavier. And I hear a tinge of Ruins of Beverast in here too, but I would say they're not as flushed out and like doomy and like long in the tooth as Ruins can be, but anyway. And this is their third album too. I definitely think this is their best of the three, and their most recent album too, so not sure what the deal is. Hopefully we get a new one. It's been 6 years already. Anyway, there was the front. Then the back. Let's put out through Seasons of Mist if I did not mention that, so fitting comparison, I compare them to the Great Old Ones, who are also French and also on Seasons of Mist. It comes with a giant poster, not going to bother pulling that out. Double LP, both on black, but I will show you the inner sleeves at least. Just the lyrics. And then here's the lyric sheet for this one. They sing in French, so if you don't like foreign lyrics for whatever reason, you might have a hard time with this one, but I don't have a problem with that, because honestly a lot of black metal lyrics you can't really tell what they're saying anyway. Yep. Actually no, I lied. Some of them are in English and some of them are in French, so it's kind of weird. Yeah, like half the lyrics are in English, half are in French. That's kind of interesting, not to go full bore and do either, but anyway. Check it out, man. This isn't my normal style. These guys are a awesome band, so give it a listen if you are a fan of the Great Old Ones, like I mentioned. So there you go. Regardez les hommes tombeurs. Alrighty, we're done. So I'm gonna get these just rolling out one after the other, so the next two videos will be continuing on this series, and we'll do something else. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you found some cool stuff that you did not know about previously. So anyway, take care. Put your list down below of your favorites in 2020. Next time will be 2021 and going on forward. So see you then. Take care. Hails.